There it is. We are live.
Play his music, man. After a small hiatus, welcome back to the Demand Better podcast, your ultimate consumer's guide in the health, fitness, and wellness space. We are sponsored by Sick Care Physiotherapy and Wellness, where the emphasis is to focus on your fitness so you can avoid the healthcare space. I am your host, Corona, coming to you from the concrete jungle of New York City, and joining me as always from Erie, Colorado is my esteemed co-host, Dr. Bo Babenko. What's up, dog?
What's up? Happy Father's Day to Robert. We're recording this if you guys are watching this later. Delayed Father's Day. Anyone fathers out there? But yes, happy Father's Day, Robert.
Thank you very much. You also. Huh? You also. Thank you very much.
Happy Friends Day to Corona.
Oh yeah.
Oh Jesus. Goodbye.
I'm waiting for my godson there, Corona.
All right, everybody. I'm absolutely pumped to introduce you to someone who's not just my best friend, but a true legend and hometown hero, Robert Drummond, who is known affectionately as Drum. Drum went from Jamesville Dewitt High School in Syracuse to Syracuse University, then got drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles in the third round of the 1989 NFL draft. He played in the NFL for the Eagles before heading north to absolutely dominate the Canadian Football League. And when I say dominate, I mean dominate. 4 Grey Cup champions, Grey Cup MVP in 2000, and multiple CFL All-Star selections. But here's what I love most about Drum. He's never stopped innovating. He's created the RAPS rating system, this brilliant athletic testing program that's helping athletes and coaches understand performance like never before. These days, you can find him back at his alma mater, Jamesville Dewitt, where they retired his number. He's coaching the next generation as a personal trainer, football coach, and track coach. He's also dabbling a little bit in acting. You can catch him on Netflix and No Such Thing as Loyalty 4. More importantly, Drum is an incredible father to Raphael and Jaden, and he's constantly giving back to our communities, always lending a helping hand to help kids reach their potential. Ladies and gentlemen, my best friend and an absolute inspiration, Robert Drummond. Welcome, kid.
Thank you very much for having me, gentlemen. And that dabbling would be an understatement as far as my acting. Because having to play a police officer and all I did was just play myself, and it's like it's not acting when you play yourself. All I had to do was just be me, and it was easy. It wasn't acting; it was just me being me, and it went okay. It was fun. Actually, I give actors and actresses a lot of credit because remembering your lines is something that I never thought would be that difficult. When you have to read a script, it's one thing. When you're doing it. Freestyle and just doing it yourself, you don't have to think, but having to think of the lines and when they interact and wow, that was one of the toughest things I ever did. But it was a great experience and it helped me out in a lot of other aspects of my life also.
See, I'm opening up the door to people that know that your acting skills are chops. So man, listen, let's really get this because I really want to get into this. You're right now coaching track and football.
High school football.
And we got kind of an issue these days with parents and kids and pushing kids. So as someone who's actually made it to the pros and coaches kids daily, what do you tell parents about a 10-year-old kid who they think is the next generation NFL superstar or NBA superstar?
Stop being delusional. It's just the one thing I tell parents all the time is let a professional or let somebody who's trained at the art of being able to evaluate a child objectively, assess your child. I have these parents a lot of times they come up here and I'll be training their kid and they'll be like, well, he's this fast, he can jump inside, he can do this. And then when I go to test him, I'm like, yeah, he got humbled, didn't he? So he's not as good or great as you or mom thinks. Parents get blinded by what they see, in their children because of, and society is the problem because what they see in NIL deals, what they see in, these professional athletes making in guaranteed money. So they get caught up in the whole, dichotomy of being able to, wow, that could be my son or daughter, in the next few years making all that money. It doesn't work like that. That's a part of the 1%. I tell people that all the time, that come to me for training or trying to use my rep trading system is that, okay, don't get caught up, in the fact that you think your child is a lot better than what they are. Because some of these kids, yes, they are talented as young kids, but a lot of these kids mature at an early age. So if you think you're good at an early age, you won't work hard. Yeah. And that's the problem with this generation. This generation is more basically what we're doing now on podcasts, on their telephones and things of that nature, than getting their behinds out and going out there and putting in 2, 3, 4, 5 hours a day of getting better. Getting better is how you become a better athlete. I mean, I tell them, the coaches at my school, the kids at my school, yes, I'm a coach. Yes, I've accomplished a lot in the sport of athletics, but I've also worked my behind to get where I got to in life. I also worked my behind to be put in a position to be able to be drafted, in the third round by the Philadelphia Eagles. You know my situation what happened at Syracuse, where I spent time, splitting time with someone who I was more talented than because the coach wanted to, I don't want to get into that, to that subject, but you can't let things like that break you. And these kids need to understand that once you get to the top, it gets even harder. From high school, it was hard, but then I got to college and it was harder. In college, it was hard. Then I got to the pros and I was like, oh my God, do I belong here? But as long as you go out there and work hard, as long as you believe in yourself, as long as you have a good crew of people, what I call a village around you to help you get better, you can do it. But it takes hard work. And that's one thing these kids have to understand. It's not easy. It's not easy playing any level of college athletics. But to play at the Division I level, then play at the pro level, and then me playing for 15 years also, oh my gosh, it was absolutely exhausting because I had to work at it. And this generation has lost that ideology of that work ethic that we had in the past.
Yeah, it shows up everywhere. Everywhere you look, we're seeing that. But take us
Correct.
to this Raps rating, Mr. Drum. Mr. Drum. Can we go Mr. Drum? No. Raps rating. Tell us how you developed it, why you developed it, and a quick little summation for the folks who are not familiar.
When I in 2003, when I was just getting ready to retire and retiring, you know what? I mean, I became a personal trainer a few years before that. But I became a personal trainer because I said to myself, when I'm done with the sport of football, in which I was like getting toward the end of my career, what did I want to do? And I told myself, what's going to inspire me? What's going to help me in life? To be a better person, to give back to my community, to do the things in life that I want to do that make me happy. Because I tell everybody, if you do what you love to do, you never work a day in your life because it's fulfillment, it's enjoyment, and it's something you love to do. So I said, first thing I said I wanted to do was I wanted to help people, get into shape, so they can live longer and be with their loved ones longer. Because I'm a Cancer. My birthday is next week. And one of my traits is I'm a protector, and I love doing things to help other accomplish, maybe not as go as far as I did, but have that good feeling inside themselves about being worth something, being of value, being someone who's accomplished something in life. So I'll help them with that. Plus, I also wanted to be able to help kids understand what it is, not just the athletic part of becoming a professional athlete or be a divisional athlete or an elite athlete, but the psychological part of it. What people don't understand is I took reps and made it more difficult than a test I saw out there, which was Nike Spark, SPARQ, which was a test that Nike actually brought in all these athletes, and that was huge back in 2003, 4, 5, 6, and for these athletes. But what Nike was doing was they were bringing these athletes in and giving them all these maybe relevant numbers, maybe false numbers, but these numbers weren't like allowing the athletes to be able to understand what it is they were trying to do. An athlete ran a 4.4. Oh, that's great. They gave him some Nike gear and sent him on his way. I'm like, okay, but how do you explain to this athlete and how do you train this athlete, or how do you allow him to have access to training that allows him to be able to get better or maintain what he has? Some kids, if they don't find the right athletic trainer, will lose that ability because they don't work on it. They don't get better on it. What do we tend to do as human beings? We tend to gravitate towards things that we find easy or that we find comfortable. We don't want to work on what? We don't want to work on the hard things or the difficult things, especially these kids. It's all about being liked. It's all about being the best. It's all about being showy. No, it's not. It's all about getting better, My big thing is on development. Nike's idea did not develop the kids. And I remember just calling some of the executives at Nike and asking them, okay, what is a Spark rating? What does it even mean? Because these kids were getting 120th, 130th, 140 percentile. And I'm like, okay, what is that? That's greatness to me. If you can get 150% in anything, that's pretty doggone good. Never got back to me. And for years and years and years, it never got back to me. So what I did, being a trainer, and also being someone involved in the football world for so long, and maybe not athletics, called all the college coaches and trainers and everyone I knew across the country and everything. And I asked my friends, guys, test these athletes in these events, and what I did was call college coaches also. And I asked them, okay, when you're evaluating a high school athlete in your sport, what is it you look for? what test would you put them through? And over the thousands upon thousands of college coaches that responded back to me, I narrowed it down to each test or each sport to 5 different, functional tests or movement tests that these coaches use. Like the NFL. The NFL uses what? The 40-yard dash, the broad jump, the short shuttle, the vertical jump, and a 3-cone drill. The measures change the direction.
Very important bench press.
bench press 25. You want to ideally know what bench press is good for and what they look for in the NFL. I mean, I have data from a study done at Harvard years ago about the NFL Combine, and you want to know one of the metrics for a wide receiver that they really look for and which helps them out and which has come out to be effective for them? Bench press. Believe it or not, wide receivers, because a great wide receiver, and Dave will tell you this, has to be able to block downfield also. Just not catch passes, just not run routes, just not being big and strong. They have to be able to block downfield also to help the what? To help the running back in the run game. And I had never known that until I saw this, a study done by Harvard to actually give us the metrics and show us how these athletes were able at the combine. The ones that had stronger bench presses were the ones who did better when it comes to getting drafted higher and being able to be not just good receivers but good blockers on field also. I was like, that's very, very interesting. So metrics like that and things like that where you can tell a young athlete, because wow, think about it. These young athletes now that are good receivers don't what? They don't work on getting stronger. They work on the pretty part of the game. You can't always want to work on the pretty part of the game. It's the ugly part of the game that's going to make you better. Or what I say all the time, it's the small things. The small things turn you into great athletes. The big things, any and everybody can do. You can get lucky doing the big things. But if you can consistently go out there and do the small things and do the small things well, you'll get noticed and you'll definitely get assessed and you'll be able to get better. And that's why I created REPS, which stands for Redesigning Athletics Performance System. It's a system designed not just to help the athletes, but also educate the trainers on, look, I've been a professional athlete for 15 years. I've been doing this personal training thing for so long that I do it in my sleep. I want to develop these young athletes and make them better. I psychologically want to make them know that, look, you're not as good as you think. So in order to get better, in order to become elite, in order to get at my level or even higher or past me, you got to work hard. And if I can explain to you through a test, you take the test, this trainer understands the hurricane system, which category 5 hurricane being what? Strong. A category 1 hurricane being what? Weak. If you're weak in this, these are exercises you need to do to get better. A good trainer can tell you, okay, if you have a category 1 a vertical jump and a hurricane score, that means what? That's a weak vertical jump. So what should you work on? Explosiveness, it's vertical power.
Yes.
It's not rocket science. And then I also thought of the whole economic factor of it, because a lot of people nowadays, and let's be real about this, a lot of minorities, really don't have the economic aptitude to be able to afford a personal trainer like myself or you guys for that matter. $100, $100 a session is a lot of money for some people, but that's what my knowledge is worth. I try and get lower than that, but I can't undervalue myself, or I'll be going against what it is that I'm actually trying to do. So I actually tried to put it in a system where it's like, look here, not only now can you go with AI and you can go on the computer, but you can look it up yourself for free if you're willing to do what? Put in the time to find out the information yourself also. I shouldn't have to actually, or a trainer shouldn't have to actually, or a coach shouldn't have to hold the child hand that wants to get better all the time. You should be one of the willing to go out there and work for yourself also, because that's what makes you better. That's called dedication. Why should I as a trainer, why should I as a parent, and I tell my kids this, so it's easy for me to have this discussion with you. Why should I want it more than you? I've done it. I'm accomplished. I'm retired. I've been in the pros. You can Google me and find out who I am. So I'm just trying to help you. So if I'm taking all this time, spending nights, days and nights up, putting in all this data, putting in all this information, giving you all this information to get yourself better, yes, I will work with you if you have the money to pay for it, even if not. But you've got to want it also. And that's the one thing I've learned over the past few years, quite a few years, working with these young kids. These young kids have lost the drive to want to get better. They want everything instantly. They don't want to work for it. They don't understand the value of what hard work can gain and accomplish with you. If you've seen the data metrics that I have on my laptop for the whole RAPS rating system, you'd cringe. For each athlete that's tested gets an overall rating in a hurricane scale or hurricane score based off those 5 tests. There's over 1 million data of entry I inputted myself by hand.
Let me ask you a question, Drum. So through that data,
Correct.
have you noticed any difference between a multi-sport athlete or a kid's trying to specialize in terms of scores and in terms of what they do?
As what do you mean by
like if you have a kid playing 2 or 3 sports that takes your test,
correct,
in comparison to a kid who only plays football,
correct.
do you have a difference in score from those multi-point athletes, those multi-sport athletes? Do they score higher because they're doing different things all the time, or do you see them equal with the kids who are just specialized, like a kid who's only playing baseball?
I mean, the numbers are. It depends on the athletes and the sports they actually play. There's a lot of correlation between football players, basketball players, and lacrosse players because of the quick movements. The small linear things they have to do, the explosive drills they have to do, and things of that nature. I mean, if you watch lacrosse players, holy smokes, when they go to make a dodge move or a move, it's like their lateral movements is unbelievable. So their short shuttles times are usually much more explosive than a football player, believe it or not. But the correlation of things and doing things like that, and their workout programs. It also depends on the workout program that a lot of trainers have. I know at Syracuse, the great Mike Bosick, who you know very well, yeah. Dave. The 8 Super Bowls. Jeez, but it's just he came up with an idea to where as athletes in college, what's the best way? Let me ask you guys, what do you think is the best way to get an athlete to try and give 110% every single time he goes up to a workout?
Dangle a carrot in front of him. Put a reward there.
No, the improvement of numbers. And what you guys had there, had up there was that board with everybody, everybody's listing of scores. I remember that. Yeah.
Competition, I found out for over the past 30 years, brings out the best in everybody. If competition doesn't bring out the best in you, you don't want it enough, and you don't want it. So those are the athletes I tell you'll never be successful because you don't want to compete. You cannot be afraid to fail. That was the one thing that always pushed me and the other athletes in Syracuse. I always wanted to be seen as a great athlete, as a hard worker by my peers. One of my mottos is, and I'm getting shirts made up to say this all the time because I say it, is, you might be bigger than me. You might be stronger than me. You might be more athletic than me, but you'll never outwork me. And one of these days, eventually we're going to get even. And once we get even, then now I'm going to step I got that killer instinct in me, that Mamba mentality. So when Kobe came up with that, I understood it so much. Kobe worked his behind off to be as great as he was. It wasn't, yes, he has some natural athletic ability, but Kobe pushed himself. The first person to get the practice, the last one to leave. A guy, I prided myself on being on teams to where I made my athletes better. Every single team I've been on, I've won championships with. Every team I've been on, where I play like the quarterbacks are in the CFL. Quarterbacks are in the Hall of Fame. What other running backs are in the Hall of Fame? Would I eventually be in there? I don't know. I hope so, possibly, but that's not by decision, and that's not why I played. I played to go out there and be the best possible athlete, best possible person I could be, and from that, I can teach that to kids. I can teach you how to be great if you choose to, but you have to listen. You can't do it your way. I mean, I'm not saying your way won't work. Maybe it will one day, but I have an outline, and that's what RAPS is. RAPS is an outline for people to just not get physically, but psychologically stronger also, and it teaches you. You need to work to get better. It teaches you also you're never as good as you think you are. Don't rest on your laurels. Once you figure you've gotten to the top of a mountain, keep going. Keep going. There's so much more to see. There's so much more that you can do. There's so much more that any of us, and it's not just kids, it's for adults also, can get better at. As much as I accomplish, I feel every single day I wake up, there's so much more I can do. There's so much more training I can learn to make these kids better. Because for me, after the situation I had with my father, I want to leave my children in a world that's built around people who are hard workers, and go-getters, and go out there and believe not just in themselves, but believe in others also. I do everything I can for my community. Dave will say that, Dave will tell you, to make it much better. I speak at schools. I go to gatherings. I do events. I train kids for free if I have to, who can't afford it. And I'm not going to sit here and be greedy for the money, because that's how God wasn't with us. And I'm not religious. I'm just spiritual. But if we can help others in a better society, and be better, how much better as a world, at least as the United States, would we be? And that's what I want. That's what I want to see before, before I pass, before my time here. I spent the last 27 years just stressed about something, because it had nothing to do with me. I didn't do anything. And I don't like calling myself a victim because I'm not a victim. I don't believe myself to be a victim. So I go out there and I always dust. I mean, like, I can get knocked down, but I can stand back up, dust myself off, and keep going again because I'm strong like that. I believe in myself. And I want these kids to have the same mentality, the same fighter spirit as me. Go out there and be warriors. My JD, I'll say one more thing. My JD high school team before I got there was what? 1-10 the last 10 years. This year we were 7-2 and played. We lost in the championship game. What a huge turnaround. And I asked those kids, what do you think the turnaround came from? Like, Coach Drummond, you just brought us a spirit of being able to go out there and believe in ourselves, and you showed us the correct way to do it. I was like, you may think that it was true, but I didn't want them to think that. I wanted them to understand that I showed you what? I showed you hard work and the correct way to do something. Show people the correct way to do something, give them an ideology that works, and the world is their oyster.
Yeah. Listen, man. Listen. We only got an hour. We only got, I love you, man. We only got an hour. Bo, go ask your question.
So I just wanted to get that quote you had down there, where hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. I think that's the quote. And then I don't know how you feel about CrossFit. I know how David feels about it. Everyone knows how David feels about CrossFit, but that was one of the ways they formulated the whole concept. The creator said, men will die for the leaderboard. Men will die for points on the board.
Yes, so that is true.
And the definition of that fitness, and this is where I want to bring it all together, a little bit of the RAP system, looking at an athlete, especially with youth athletes. And then another kind of tangent question. Have you heard or have either of you read the book Range by David Epstein?
I have not.
Yeah, so for what you do, I think it would be super interesting for anyone out there listening. I think they know where I'm kind of going. He talks about the fact that Steve Nash didn't pick up a basketball until he was 12 years old. And became an NBA MVP for those not familiar. All sorts of different stories from Roger Federer, some Tiger Woods examples where there was specialization, and it's possible to succeed with specialization at an early age. But when you talk about long-term athlete development, and I have a 2.5-year-old right now, he watched baseball on the TV, and he started putting his flip-flop on his hand and is like, I'm the pitcher, and this is my glove, and I throw the ball, and the batter goes woo, and he loves it, and he's just absorbing it. But in terms of actual athletic development, I can start thinking like, what's the best way to get a scholarship 16 years from now? Which sport will that be? Or what are the things that, again, as a physical therapist, I'm also looking at what's going to sustain him, what's going to allow him to play whatever sport he wants. If he wants to play water polo, he can go do that. If he wants to do gymnastics, he can go do that. And basically figuring that out. So I think a little bit of what David asked, and not saying you dodged that question, Drum, but the question being, have you noticed anything from your system and injury prevention? That's a big part. I'll leave it there because functional movement screen is also another big thing that Gray Cook developed. That's a huge piece. They tried to standardize it. They did a lot of research around it to say, hey, out of a 21 possible points being perfect, if you got under 14, you had a significant increase in chance of injury. There's all the research we can go into, but I'd love to hear how your system, maybe if you notice any trends or any aspects of that.
All right, the testing aspect of the system is just the testing aspect. It's something I learned from the college coaches about what it is they're looking for. The training aspect of the system is something I learned from myself for being a pro athlete for many years, and understanding that my one biggest thing is that you can't be successful in any sport if you're injured all the time. And a lot of these trainers, training in one phase I call is a strength phase all the time, which actually gets athletes a lot more injured, and I've seen it personally myself, even in the pro sport, guys going to the gym and what do they want to be? Let their ego kick in and, me got big muscle, I can bench 350, just because you can bench 350 and squat 700 doesn't mean you're going to be a good athlete and get, and not get hurt. My huge outlook and aspect of the whole way I train is for injury prevention, to stop an athlete from getting injured. It's just like the soft tissue, a certain muscle group. I mean, just so many different things I can get into watching the athletes sitting there again, having hamstring issues, or having Achilles issues, or some of these athletes having hip issues and things of that nature. It's just,
but Drum, let me jump in. Let me jump in and ask you, what have you seen that connects the pieces? Is there some specific that you're looking at in those assessments? I'm just super curious. Like I said, the FMS was one of the big systems, and they put a lot of money and research behind it. I have my own systems. I do a lot of hip internal rotation,
yes,
looking at triple hop, things like that
yes.
for athletic performance. Is there anything particular you've found in your experience that you can share with us?
As far as the athletes' mobility and things of that nature and how they move, yes. I mean, I would have to sit there and assess them and see what it is they do. But from the standpoint of being whatever athlete it may be, whatever sport it may be, I mean, there's easy ways to get there, which I did. Like the internet is a wealth of information, and you can go out and find out throughout a few years ago in the NFL where a lot of these athletes were getting knee injuries. And it's at Syracuse. When we had a strength coach here, our athletes had a lot of quad injuries, or a lot of hip injuries. That's from the workouts. So that's things from assessments and things that were being done to them. My whole point is on, from first reps. Reps is about what college coaches are looking for, in an athlete. A college coach is not going to worry about anything. They want to see you run a 40-yard dash. Wow. They want to see you run a short shuttle. Wow. Okay. That's what they're looking for. Now, if an athlete sits out there and now I go through a season or progression and stay with these athletes, and RAPS is not just a test that you take one time. A RAP score is something that you do 3 times a year. So if I can see your numbers on a computer from 3 times a year and I can explain it to a trainer and everything, okay, this is what you look for. Their numbers improve, yes, but you can also see where they got injured also. Okay. Now you have to figure out, why did they get injured? All right. Let's see if they got, let's see the other exercises that correlate with that. Let's see the exercises that correlate with their sport, like a sport like lacrosse. What do you think lacrosse is going to bring out with all that sharp cutting and all, and all that torque that they're putting on their knees and on their hips and things of that nature? They will have more hip injuries. They will have more Achilles injuries. Not so much as hamstring, because it's not a sport where they're really running a linear or full speed straight ahead, but the cutting they do is unbelievable, and the twisting and turning that they do is unbelievable. Also, more core injuries they have. It's just over the years of, maybe I didn't explain it correctly the right way I did it. Over the way I did it, and over the way I explained it or tried to do it, is that I come from a standpoint of doing it from a background of physical therapy. My Mike McGee, the 2 best guys that ever got me, ever made me understand, what it is to keep my body going through physical therapy and keep it strong that way, are Mike McGee and Jerry Townend. Jerry Townend is a head trainer for the Ottawa Senators, who was my trainer in Toronto with the Toronto Argonauts. And Mike McGee, who owned Fairway Physical Therapy, who I partnered with when I first got back home, was one of the best physical therapists that basically could assess kids when they first came in from an injury, and they figured out things before the doctors did. And I was always enamored by how they managed to know, what the injury was before a doctor did, because it was just, they had seen it so many times, and they had seen the sport the sport the kids were playing, and they were able to assess them. And I would just sit there, the same thing I did in the pros. I would just sit in the training room and just watch the doctors, watch the physical therapists, watch the injuries that came in, and be like, wow, okay, I learned so much. The key is you need to learn. RAPS teaches you how to learn about your body, how to learn about your ability. It gives a scout, it's not a scout, but it gives a coach or it gives a trainer, vital information for them to get them better, in that sport, or say, I won't say event, but say in that test. But that test also allows them to be able to go out there and be a better athlete in their position and compete against yourself. Stop competing against another athlete and compete against a number. Always want to get better. I just ran a test 2 weeks ago for high school kids here, and they were blown away by it. Some of them got humbled. Some of them realized how much harder they have to work to get better. Some of them realize, and the one big thing I told them all the time that kids aren't stressed through today is what? Guys, you need to stretch. A lot of you are not flexible. I can tell. I mean, this was from me watching them. I can tell by how you move. I can tell by how you get back in your stance. I can tell by how you can't get out of your turn. You need to stretch. You need to get your muscles, limber and loose before you go out there and do explosive work, or you're gonna get hurt. So you got to work on some of you have to work on your balance. Some of you have to work on your coordination. Some of you need to work on your agility. There's so many intangibles ingrained in there that I just try to give them a segue, or I try and give them, a precursor into being able to get better so they can be noticed by these recruiters. Because as we know at Syracuse University, $92,000 a year. to go to school. So if you get a scholarship, that can be unbelievable. A lot of people can't afford it. I couldn't afford that when I was a kid growing up. So it gives these kids an avenue, not just to be good at sports, but also be good at what? In life, you can go on and provide for your family with a scholarship from an institution that they could never afford. That's $500,000 when you do the numbers. How many of us have $500,000 laying around?
Jump in there, Bo. Got to cut him sometimes.
I know. I'm trying to get in there.
Come on, Drum.
So rapid fire, Drum. What age does the RAP system start at?
8.
Perfect. And if a parent is listening right now and they are looking to put their kid through this assessment, where can they go? Are they looking for a RAPS certified trainer? Because I saw you have the educational piece.
Yes.
So if there's somebody in California, if there's somebody in Seattle, they can find someone on your website.
Well, they can. Well, right now we're in the process of getting RAP certified trainer because I'm as I said before, I want qualified people to be able to understand the system and what it is that I'm trying to do. You guys and Dave will understand it. You will understand it because you're a physical therapist. Physical therapists are the best people to probably put in a position to be able to do this because they understand it. I'm serious. They get it. The whole concept was based behind physical therapy.
But today, outside of what we're working towards, if a parent's listening to this right now, we're Father's Day 2025, and they want to put their kid through the system, are they contacting you? Are they going on your website? What's the way to go?
They can go on a website or they can contact me. Either or is good. Rapsrating.com is a website. And my email addresses are just r29drum@gmail.com.
We'll get that in the show notes. Perfect.
I'm going to keep. Go ahead, Bob.
I was going to say in terms of the system. In terms of the system, though, is it again if someone goes on there and the parent can just conduct that test themselves?
They can. Yes, they can.
The same way they can watch the NFL Combine and say, okay, what are these drills? I can do these drills.
Yes.
But learning to do it better.
Yes, but here's the thing. Like you're learning. Okay, why do so many scouts go to the Combine?
To see it in person.
The
eye test.
But say that again.
The eye test.
I mean, they want to see. And then all right. And from that Combine, what do we get? We get the numbers, right? Oh my gosh, this guy ran at 4.2 something. Oh my gosh, this guy. Regardless, we get the numbers correct. So it's about the wow factor. But John Ross, fastest 40-yard dash a few years ago. How did he turn out in the NFL?
No, he didn't last.
Never heard of him. Never heard of him.
He played for Cincinnati.
Yeah, we played for Cincinnati Bengals guy. We played at University of Washington. It didn't amount to anything, but he could run like the wind. I could have told John Ross from what I told you guys earlier that he wasn't going to be that good because he couldn't do one thing that they really look for at the NFL Combine. Because I think he bench pressed 220. No, he bench pressed 225 2 times. And I just sat there and told you that's one metric that Harvard did a study that at the NFL Combine, receivers at bench usually do much better, regardless of whether they're fast or slow. We
can make fun of Kenny Pickett's hand size. He's not doing good. But y'all might remember Matt Jones back in the day, played for the Jaguars. He was
I do.
And you get these Combine superstars, to your point. Guys that come and they jump off the page. The numbers are there, but something's missing. Whether what's his name, Johnny Manziel. He was a stud. He just didn't have the mindset. Jamarcus Russell, #1 overall pick, didn't like to watch.
Didn't have the mindset. Yeah, you're sports, man. I like that.
So listen. We got to make these quick hitters because we got to keep it going. Because I could listen to you and talk to me all day because I do all the time. Specialization. When is a good time for kids to specialize?
Ooh, that's an argument or a discussion I get in with parents all the time. And not to take up more time, I'll use a quick synopsis as quick as I can. But because I'm big on kids being multi-sports athletes, because it's so many different movements, so many different, ideas of how they interact with kids, and that, especially at a young age for kids like that. But that's a tough one. 15, 16, 17. Kids should start specializing. When they're younger than that, let them play multiple sports. Let them do multiple movements. Let them do multiple things that are going to work on, again, from the physical therapy aspect of it, work on different like balance, coordination, control, agility, so many like small muscle things they need to do, especially at a young age, like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They need to be doing so many things. They need to be outside playing also. Here's the one thing we have to understand, gentlemen. We cannot let them forget to be kids. And when you start specializing the kids, you start taking them. I see kids here now who are like 8, 9 years old, and their parents have them in these travel teams, and they're traveling from here to Pennsylvania every week, every 2-3 days, and it's just like, holy smokes, these kids don't have a life. At some point, they're going to get burned out. What you don't want to do is you don't want to burn a kid out. You don't want to make them lose love for the game, is what I'm trying to say. So specialize a little bit later.
You're perfect. What does athletic burnout look like in a kid?
Oh gosh, doesn't want to do it anymore. I've seen that also. I mean, a kid who doesn't want to get better, a kid who just thinks that he'd rather be doing other things as opposed to to preparing for a sport is athletic burnout. Athletic burnout is just not a kid just not going out there and not wanting to play anymore. It's a kid who's lost a love for the game because he's being pushed to do something when he wants to do other things. That's why I sit here and say you have to let them be kids also. You as parents, as coaches, as educators, we have to find that balance between letting them making sure they work hard, but still understanding they still need to work hard also with being an athlete if they want to be good. But it's their choice. It has to be their choice.
Well, you got a question?
No, I was reflecting on my own athletic journey. Played freshman year college football. It was 2001. We were in Staten Island. We were across the water from 9/11. We saw the towers fall. I remember that day.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, we sat. Classes were not canceled. I think everyone was just kind of confused what was going on. We had football practice later that day. Actually, I remember sitting up.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I think I went to the first class. I think it was a physics class. The professor was again kind of like did their lesson and was like, "I'll let you guys go and see what the news says," and then like whatever. And then we still had practice. I think
wow.
Filtered in. And I just remember sitting up there. Our anyone who's been to Wagner College in New York, it's very lovely campus. It's right above the hills, and it kind of overlooks downtown Manhattan. So anyway, I was going through all that, and I was never gonna. I was a walk-on, basically a cornerback. Was not gonna, was having fun. I loved the game of football, but I think I was already coming to a piece of like this. I'm not gonna be a professional football player. No matter how hard I work, I loved working hard, but the talent I think was always going to kind of catch up to me at that level.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I got a concussion from an All-American safety. That was fun. Just trying to run scout team kickoff return. Anyway, but to say all that, I definitely had that burnout. When David, you brought that question up about burnout, I was like, how do I quit this thing that I love? So, and I was 17 years old at the time, 17.
But what kept you going? The love, right?
Yeah, I loved it, but I was also like, how do I get out of this with my pride intact?
Yeah.
So Drum. So let's look at this. What's the most challenging part about dealing with parents as a coach? I know you got a lot of information. I got a lot of questions. We got about 20 minutes. Let's go.
Oof. The hardest thing about dealing with parents is just trying to humble them in the most respectable way. That their kid, their little Johnny, their little Sally, or little Stevie, or whoever is not as good as they think they are. Could they get better? Of course they can. But it's like stop telling me they're the next, making a LeBron James, or Peyton Manning, or let their body, give me the answers. Let their athleticism, let their feelings, let me see if they get burned out doing this, if they like it or not. And that's the one thing I say with all the kids I still train now. It's like, look, I mean, there's a million things I could be doing, doing right now. If you don't want to be here, it's just like your body language is telling me you don't want to be here. It's like, you're only here with me for about an hour and a half. Give me 110% for an hour and a half is all I ask. If you can't give me 110% in an hour and a half, what are you going to give me for a lifetime? Yeah. Or for the time, it's like you said, takes these kids to develop, in the 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 50. And I know this because I've seen kids who have burned out before because the parent wants it more than the child.
Yeah, I had that in my own personal life with my nephew.
I know.
Conversely, what did the best parents do differently than the parents they're overriding their kids? In other words, what are the differences you see in parents of kids that are thriving that aren't? I don't want to say pushing.
I know.
But what do you see different from the parents who think this kid's Peyton Manning to the parent who sits around and lets this kid develop and grow, and what do you see? What do they do differently?
Oh, that's easy. They let the people who have all the wealth of information, the ones who do all the research, the ones that get all the data and things of that nature, do their job or do our jobs. Let me do my job. My job is to psychologically do the same thing as I do as a parent, is to guide my two young boys into being the best people they possibly can be. And I know all the small things I have to do, to do that. I mean, it's not about, and I tell these parents, it's not about how big your son is, or how fast he is, or how strong he is. That doesn't matter, because, as Bo just said, they can get injured. They could be big, strong, and fast and be injured all the time. We have to figure out, as evaluators, as trainers, as physical therapists, why these kids are getting hurt like that all the time, and adjust that and adapt that. And then, while someone like myself or someone like you guys be able to sit there and psychologically, get into the minds of these kids and let them know, it's like, okay, you will heal, you will get better, but you have to change the way you train. And you have to sit here and work at it. Physical therapy is one of the hardest things I ever had to do when I got injured. Physical therapy is hard as working out. Holy smokes, are you kidding me? Physical therapy is one of the things that taught me how to be tough. Football was easy, but when I my sophomore year of high school, when I messed my knee up and I had to go to physical therapy, wow. I had never experienced anything that hard before in my life. And it made me understand is, okay, here's another aspect of training that can really, really help me not just get stronger, but get better also, make my smaller muscles, my joints a lot stronger. And that's when it started to kick in for me way back then. And that's why I always come from a physical therapy standpoint of training, because it helps you so much better as an athlete. And that's the one thing I try and mold and meld into the minds of these parents and these kids.
All right. Next thing, what should parents be looking for and a good coach? How do you know you got a good coach? How do you know?
Wow, it's interesting. Look for a coach that wants to develop your young athlete. A coach is not going to sit here and blow smoke and tell you your athlete's this. He's the best. He's the greatest quarterback. Yes, I mean, on our football team we have some great athletes, but the one thing a good coach is going to always have to do is going to have to humble his athlete, no matter how talented he is. Make him understand that, like, as good as you are right now, if you don't keep working hard at it, someone will pass you, or quite a few people will pass you. You got to keep working hard to get better. And right now, you may not realize it, you may not understand it, but somebody looks up to you. So be a good role model also. I mean, and me personally, I try and lead by example. I'm the former NFL football player, but I humble myself to those kids to where I wouldn't even do an interview this year, because I told them it wasn't about me. It's about you kids. Yes, I could be on the paper. Yes, I could be on the social media and everything all day long about former football athlete goes back to his high school, blah, blah, blah. I didn't want that. I wanted it to be about you kids. I want to show you you're important also. Not just about me. It's about you kids. So that's what we as educators, and the ones who have achieved as much as we have and at this older age have to make these kids understand and believe, because this is, I tell you guys, I don't know if you work with kids or not, this is a different generation.
Woo! So Drum, I got to ask, how old are your two kids?
I have 27 and 17.
Let's talk about the 17-year-old. Is he in sports right
now? He's a basketball player in Orlando, Florida, Boone High School.
Why don't you tell him how tall he is, Drum?
About 6'6".
Well, that makes sense. That checks out. How tall are you, Drum?
I'm 6'4".
Okay. All making sense. It's all coming together. It's all coming together. But when did you get him into basketball? Is that something he fell into? Is that something he played around some different stuff? Tell us about that journey.
It's something he fell into. It's like, I tried to, as a parent, I mean, as I said, I'm always overprotective. For the longest time, I didn't tell my kids I was a professional athlete, things of that nature. And Dave will tell you, I don't have things hanging around my house with pictures and things of that nature, because I'm just a humble person. It's just, I wanted them to realize that, yes, I am a football player, but that's not who I am. I'm so much more than a football player. Football player is just something I did for fun and that I love. They may not love it. I'm not going to push my kids into something that they didn't love. I tell them all the time, you don't have to play football to impress me. I'm going to love you regardless. Do what you love to do, because as I said before, it's never work if you love to do it. And he loves basketball. So I said, at any time you need me to help with your basketball, anything of that nature, just come and get me. I'm your dad. I mean, I'm right here. I can always help you out. The same thing with my oldest son, Raphael. I always told him, it's like, whatever you guys want to do, just let me know. It's got to be from you. You got to love it. You got to want it, not me. I had my dream. I loved football. Gosh, did I love football, And when I didn't love it anymore, I walked away. But I love the fact now what I do is helping young athletes, achieve a dream, because I can smile inside right now, because I said, oh my gosh, I made it to Division I football and I made it into the NFL. What a proud moment for myself, and I quietly, understand what it is I accomplished, and because I patted myself and I believed in myself, but I love the game. So if those kids don't have a love for the game like that, mean, they'll never be successful at it because they always find a reason to fail. I've failed so many times that success is, to me, is just, it's a great thing, but oh my gosh, you should see my failures. And Dave will tell you the story. Holy smokes. I mean, it wasn't always glorious for me. It wasn't. I mean, I got pretty much benched. I got moved positions. I was on a transfer schools. It was a nightmare, but I never gave up because I loved it.
So we got about 5 minutes. I got a bunch of quick hitters. I really want to give you because I want parents to hear what your thoughts are. What mistakes do you see other parents making now that they should try to avoid with their kids?
For one, stop taking their kids to all these sports camps at such a young age. As I said before, let them be a kid. I'm seeing some of these kids just burn out and lose love for the sports. And when you're a parent and you're on the sideline, also just be quiet. Don't embarrass your kid. It's gonna get to the point where your kid doesn't want to go to the game anymore because mom or dad's yelling in the stands or getting into fights or getting into arguments. And then they get ostracized when they come to practice the next day about these kids pointing and laughing at them, your dad was in the stand doing this, or your mother was in the stand. So kids don't want to see that. Remember, we live in a day and age now where social media is instant. So these kids, all these things that used to take us days, if you found out by the news, if you found out at all, these kids can find out instantly, and that embarrasses them. And I've seen a lot of kids walk away and not want to be a part of it anymore.
Okay. If you could give your parent, that's not the one. What do you want kids to take away from sports, regardless of talent level?
How to find something that you love and work hard for it. If you want to be successful at it. Success is not easy. Success just doesn't happen overnight. You have to work your behind off in order to be successful, and that's not just in sports. That's in life.
Yeah.
How much? I have an answer to that too.
Go.
Learn how to lose. Learn how to not be good at something. Yeah. I think that's an important lesson that I think is important we get out there too.
Yeah,
100%.
I'm just trying to get these questions out for some.
I know what you're trying to do. Get to it.
How much should parents invest financially in youth sports?
How much can you afford? I mean, don't go broke. I mean, it's just Dave. At the end of the day, you still got to live. Yeah. And I get that. That's why I try and create systems where I tell parents, like, you don't have to come to me as a trainer. I mean, I putting the data on there so you can actually get the information yourself for free. A public library is free. You can use computers there. So I know the financial stipulations of what we're going through as a society now in this country, about people struggling with money. So I didn't want to put them in a bind and having one more thing and parents believing in their kids. And we all as parents love our kids, but we don't have the money to pay for them to get something. What can we do? I don't want you to go out there and be a thief or anything of that nature. So I put the best situation and put them in a position to be like, you know what? The public library is free. You can go get on a phone. You can get on the internet and get the information yourself, for free. You can have access to it.
How would 12-year-old Drum do in sports today? The way sports is.
Ooh, that's an interesting question. The way sports is today. I saw where the guy who was drafted for the pick I was drafted at, how much money he's making, and I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? Like 17, some ridiculous amount of numbers, but it's just as I said before. I think my sophomore year in high school, I was older than 12, but it just physical therapy taught me a whole aspect of what it wasn't for me to get better. It was for me to get back to playing sports because I missed a week. We played against Baltimore, and I missed a game that week. And I remember just crying so much because our team lost. And I remember feeling like, I could have been a part of our team winning this game and didn't do anything better. The better myself. But then like that physical therapy taught me that it's like, Robert, physical therapy got you back to being able to finish the rest of the season. Maybe you should listen to physical therapists because they seem to know a lot more than my trainers. Plus, back then we weren't lifting weights. You know that. I mean, like the whole scheme and the whole dynamics of how sports is treated now was so much different back then than it is now.
Do you think the specializations hurt?
Can I give a quick shout out to Nick, who we played Brother Jimmy's Barbecue?
Yeah, Nick.
Yeah. I've been there before.
Yeah, so they were our sponsor of our football team.
McCarter was the general manager.
Okay, yeah. That's good food.
Good stuff. Shout out to them. Are they still running Corona? I haven't been in New York.
They're done. They're down south only. No longer in New York.
All right. Well, Nick asked, and I think he jumped in a little late. We did cover this earlier, but I wanted to make sure we got his question up here. So you asked, what age should you recommend specialization? You said about 15. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yep. And,
15, 16, correct.
Yeah, and we already covered thoughts on specializing in one sport. So Nick, thank you for the question, and we'll encourage you to go back and rewind.
I got I got one more. I got one more, Drum. Final thought for parents listening about their approach with youth sports, in terms of their child and the world of it now, because it's all pretty much specializations as I see it.
Ooh, I actually probably could be a sports psychologist by how much I know, how much I deal with kids and parents, and just, but it's just parents. As parents, we need to understand that. I mean, and I say this all the time. We can't want it more than our child for them. We also have to ingrain. We also have to teach in them that they have to want it also. It's like I get to the point where I tell my children all the time, if you want to get better, I mean, I shouldn't have to tell you, to go out there and work on your trade. Yeah. You should want to go out there and do it yourself. You should want to get better. As kids, what do? We played toss up tackle all the time, but it honed our skills. It worked on the skills. I don't see kids outside playing sports anymore. Now they're on social media. They're on video games. They're doing everything but getting better, for the sport they're trying to play. But if you love it, you're going to try and get better at it. If you don't, you're not. So I tell parents, it's like, you got to work with that happy medium. You got to put them in a position to be successful. Always put your children in the position to be successful. And don't sit there and tell them how great they are. And when they fail, just tell them to get up, dust themselves off, and get better. Find a way to get better. I tell my kids when we lose games now, I mean, do you guys understand what you did wrong? Yeah, we can correct that. Don't worry about it. We'll get better. You can't win every single game, but you can get better.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect place. I think that's a perfect place. Drum. God, I love you. Listen, I know you have. I'll talk to you about it later. And that's a wrap. Drum, they already know where they can find you. Today's episode lit a fire under you. Spread the love. Hit the review button. Share it or subscribe. We are sponsored by Fit Care Physiotherapy and Wellness, where the emphasis is to focus on your fitness so you can avoid the healthcare space. Until the next time, keep pushing brownies, keep evolving, and never stop demanding better. Your future self will thank you. Peace.